Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Hi, I'm David Bell.
Hey, I'm Tom Ryman.
Is it me?
And then you.
Oh, hi, I'm Starline Hodge.
We just watched Black Panther.
We did.
Yes.
The world is changing. Soon, there will only be the conquered and the conquerors.
Step into the spotlight.
You are a good man
Step into the spotlight.
with a good heart. And it's hard for a good man to be a king.
So, all right.
So getting right into thoughts, we haven't... Star, you saw it yesterday.
I saw it on opening night because it's a holiday. It's a black
Right.
holiday. Like, I
Right.
needed to see it the opening night, and I'm so glad I did because it was wonderful.
You shared a video.
You did, yeah.
I took a before picture just because going into the theater, it was a mixed crowd because it was like the Art Deco district in Hollywood, so it's kind of a mixed crowd.
Right.
But every black person who was coming in, like I was, just watching people come in to take their seats, the look on their face of like just excitement, like there were just people dressed up in like dashikis and just like you could tell who like wanted this was an event.
Right.
And even the woman I sat next to, as soon as I sat down, she was like, "I'm so glad you sat next to me. I'm so glad to sit next to another black woman to watch this movie." I was like, "Hell yeah, this is gonna be great!" And we we're just sitting there, kind of like trying to contain the excitement about it, and also hoping that we weren't going to be disappointed because we were like, "What if we're too hyped? What if we're too hyped for
Right.
this? What if
There's
this
that,
is
Right, yeah,
There's that
because-
concern that you're going to be blinded by hype for
Yeah.
a movie.
And I was very glad that I wasn't.
Yeah, it was really good.
It was very good.
And even the video I posted afterward, it was during the credits, waiting for wait till after the credits because there's
right.
always stuff
Yeah.
after the credits.
Sweet armless Bucky.
Yeah. As I was sitting just waiting for it, that's when all the feelings, because I didn't cry through the movie. I was just so like,
Really?
yeah, I just was kind of absorbing everything, and like even the emotional parts was just like, this is happening. Like that's kind of how it was. So afterward, when everything kind of settled and I was able to calm down, all of a sudden it was just like, oh no, I can't
they were
control this.
like-
Just started bawling.
That's something Dave mentions. Like one of the only comments we actually made to each other leaving the theater just a little bit ago was one of the most surprising things about the movie was actually feeling the cry coming more than once.
I saw.
Yeah.
I saw
there's
a video
like
of you
3
crying.
times in this movie where I was like, "Oh shit, am I gonna cry?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I
am
didn't
gonna cry
expect
in
to
a
choke
superhero
up
movie?
at all during this movie,
Yeah.
and I did.
Yeah, I got to the moments where I was choking up, but it was just I think my brain was just in do not lose any moment of this, and just kind of reabsorbed it, and then at the end, I walked home from the theater.
Really?
Yeah,
that
and
close?
yeah, it's about a mile away from my apart.
Oh, okay.
So I walked home and I was trying to, because I do a vlog, and I was trying to okay, I'm gonna talk about it for this, and as I'm walking and trying to talk, I couldn't I just kept crying.
Just post that. That's the blog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna be.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I'm
you
going
were.
to go see it. Show a bit of the trailer, and then show this thing of just me going. I don't even know what to talk about. Like, I think if I had seen it with you guys for the first time and tried to be on this podcast, I wouldn't.
That would have been.
It would
great.
just too much feeling.
You neneeded like the 12 or 24 hours to process it.
Yeah, and
Well-
just take in how important. Like, that's the thing. It's one of those. I want to critique it from as a Marvel superhero movie
Sure.
perspective, but it's also, it feels like this piece of history
Right.
that's a separate thing, because
Sure.
it's still a Marvel movie. It's a superhero movie. It hits all your classic superhero
It
points.
hits a lot of familiar points, definitely.
You could once you kind of knew the plot, you could see generally where it was going. Like
yeah, I still one of the things this is like legitimately one of my favorite Marvel movies, and the reason being is that the story was so small.
Yes.
Like, it's a very small, very personal story. He's barely Black Panther in the movie.
Taking away the...
Like, he spends most of the time as...
Yeah, it feels more of... It's a movie about Wakanda.
Yeah.
Well, taking away the significance of the film, that stuff, which I'm sure is part of the reason you cried watching it. Like, I realized I teared up not for those same reasons. I teared up because of the fucking story.
Because of the story,
Yeah.
And as a Marvel movie, judging it by that, it still, like you said, it was the small scale is great. There were things of it just as a movie that I loved. Like, one of the really simple things, Marvel movies tend to have no color in them. Like, they tend to have that level of gray. That even Thor Ragnarok, there's like a weird, it's because they use the same colorist for all their movies, so they tend to look kind of the same. And this one,
like the Target Walmart mentality of anywhere you go in the country, you want Walmart to look the same.
Right.
So
and so all the Marvel
movies
movies
kind of have a similar.
Yeah, and there's this like lack of saturation, very slight, that this movie I didn't see at all. Well, and so it's stuff like that where
because you can't light black people that way. You can't desaturate black people. It does not look good. We will look dead. So that's true. So you need to have bright colors so we don't look flat.
That's amazing.
That's just straight up like, oh, we can't.
It's like, oh, that's not gonna work.
Oh, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
We need everyone to look vibrant and alive, so you can't. Yeah.
There were so many things that were good about it. Another thing like that made me appreciate it more than most Marvel movies is you mentioned the color. The music tends to be very bland and not memorable in Marvel movies, and this was a score that I was actually enjoying. Like
Kendrick Lamar did the soundtrack, which
I
I didn't listen to until after I listened to it today.
There's two different music credits in the film. There's Kendrick Lamar for original music, and there's also a composer credit. So I assume they just worked together on a lot of the tracks.
I think every time you saw Killmonger, I think they played. It seems like it was more the Kendrick Lamar influence, which I appreciate because I'm like, oh, okay, because Killmonger was raised in the U.S.
Right, it's
that part of the culture, and I was just like, oh, this is good. Like, it's good to kind of have.
Yeah, that's
I
didn't think about that until you pointed it out. But yeah, because like all the Wakanda stuff is all like the drums, and
the African drums, the rhythm, that kind, like the traditional, the home music.
Yeah,
and then every time you got Killmonger, you got more of the American influence, the hip hop that's still part of the culture, and obviously born and bred here because of history and just, oh man, guys, it's just like
I didn't even notice that. That's
it's
so
just
good.
It's not that. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm just like me, just going like it was just. I don't know. I keep circuiting because like I feel the points in my head, and then I go like, but then it goes to this point and then this point because it's so connected. The fact that it even is a smaller story, that even within that small story, it was like, I don't know a better way to describe it. It's just such a black story. They had a point about showing that Killmonger was created because of Wakanda abandoning him.
Right.
Yeah.
And so even though like he was coming from this perspective of he was raised in the U.S., there's all these problems, but being left out, like it was still the way they addressed the problems in the U.S. It wasn't like the Wakanda versus America. It wasn't Wakanda versus the colonizers or whatever. It was still Wakanda and the people that they left behind.
Yeah.
And that's what made it so like it felt good to. It's like addressing issues in your own community versus us versus the world, even though you're addressing issues in your community because of the world. But I don't know. It felt so insular, and it just felt great to see. Like it wasn't about anybody else but them. Like I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. Yeah.
I see what you mean. It also like there's the general message of how do you, because The hardest part. What's Michael B. Jordan's
Killmonger.
Killmonger?
Eric Killmonger.
Killmonger.
Like Eric Stevens.
It's weird juxtaposition between first name and.
Oh my god, he killed so many people.
Well, all right.
If every one of those beings is a dead person? Holy shit.
Yeah, when that when they said that plot point, I was just like, excuse? And then when he did the thing, I was like,
Oh, wow.
oh my god, like what a great.
Oh, he enjoys his job.
Yeah, that was great.
He's
I was
really
like,
good
woo.
at this.
But the only what I was gonna come out of this as my only criticism of the film, it can't really be at this point because of the main idea that it's about like an injustice and he reacts to it in a different way than ultimately happens with Black Panther. He's right in a lot of his points.
Killmonger?
Yeah, Killmonger.
Yeah, it's very.
It's how he reacts is in a hateful way that it makes it. Like, it was my biggest criticism was gonna be the idea of, like, I wish he wasn't so evil. Like, the part where he, like, chokes that lady and burns all the plants. That was the part where I was like, oh, that feels too much. Like, I wanted it to be
there were so many points where he was
ambiguous.
too much, where you're like, oh, okay, they're making it very clear, like, I mean,
But-
he kills his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Where it's just, like, to show the clear divide of Wakandans respect their women.
Yeah.
Clearly, like, they're equals. And then you see Killmonger, who, like, even for his cause, is just, like, but gone. Like, he was himself. Like, it wasn't about, a people. It was about him and his his quest for revenge.
And it makes sense.
Yeah, it was sort of the dark side of that because you have, what was the general's name? Okoye?
Yes.
Her, where she's very much like, I will do anything for Wakanda, and like when she has to face off against her husband, and he's like, would you kill me? And she's like, yeah, I'll kill you in a second.
Yeah,
Wakanda.
she was absolutely. I was just like,
So, what he does, what Michael B. Jordan does when he shoots his girlfriend, so he can get Claw and then get to Wakanda, like it's the dark side of that. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, sort of thing, because it's like it's not coming at it from a like. My life is forfeit, anybody else's life is forfeit in order to accomplish the greater goal. He's taking it from everyone else is disposable, so I can do, because what I want to do is more important. But his goal was
the same as Black Panther's
different means.
love interest.
Yeah.
Nakia.
Lupita Nyong'o.
Look that up. Yeah.
Lupita Nyong'o,
Lupita
yeah.
Nakia, I was right. Yeah, I was just her goals were the same, except she just it's humanitarianism versus like let's make this an all-out war. It's like she wanted to let's help people. We have the tech. Let's do that. Versus, you know what? Fuck these people.
Give them grenades.
Let's take over this shit.
It's the high road versus like spite. It's the idea of like, hey,
everything.
let's just fix this. Let's not.
So yeah,
that comes from a place of pain. That's the thing. Like if you keep pushing down people, some people are gonna bite back.
That juxtaposition I thought was really. They kept mirroring scenes in the film, which was, I thought, really cool. Like they do the challenge scene in the waterfall pool twice, and it's
everything
like through
was
the
just,
mirror both sides.
Yeah, and that was just good storytelling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everything
and
was
then-
just mirror. Like I think
and
that's
then-
what made it a little predictable, though. Because as soon as I started realizing the pattern, I was just like, oh, all these things are probably going to show up later.
I
Because
didn't
it's the
expect
whole
that.
balance
for
of
whatever reason, I didn't. When they got back to the waterfall, I was like, oh. So they planted that, and it's like what Dave said. It's like, oh, that's just good storytelling. It's like, oh, they established this earlier, so now it's like you're seeing the same thing through a different lens, where it's more sinister. It's later in the day. There's nobody's there.
I think every time they brought, I didn't expect the fire burning and the flower thing.
Well, that
was the new. I was
the
like,
other,
oh,
the other side, like when T'Challa goes and takes his fucking superhero drink and falls asleep and sees his dad.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very different thing than when Killmonger sees his dad.
and I love that we got to see that.
Well,
that was
that
I-
was one of the parts that got me, because
Yeah,
it's like,
that was one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Just seeing him like address his dad and like
This is
like a small child watching his dad die.
but the kid's not crying. And
No.
it cuts to his dad, and it cuts back, and it's the adult Killmonger, and he
crying.
sheds one
Yeah.
tear, and it was
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's cool that you took that.
That's why I was so like, I get the ending, and I get that he has to like be defeated. It just bummed me out because it felt like the movie wanted me to sympathize with him and wanted me.
Of
to...
course,
you're supposed
you're
to.
supposed
Yeah,
to.
exactly. No, that's the thing. Like, it's my criticism was like, oh, he
so-
should have lived, and they should have teamed up, and then it's like, well, yeah, that's the point. Point is the movie wanting me to want that.
As soon as the movie even started, because I made sure I only watched the one trailer in the very beginning, and I avoided media from it since, because I was like, I just want this to be an experience. And so when the movie started and they started telling the story of Wakanda, my first thought actually still was, I was just like, well, why didn't they help everybody?
Yeah.
Like, that was still part of the thing. I was like, dang, you have like this big African nation who's like amazing and awesome. I was like, man, they really could have helped us out if this was a real thing. And then of course, that's what the movie is about.
Yeah.
You're like, I didn't think you'd go here. I thought we'd be like fighting the Claw, whatever. And it was just I was just like,
Yeah.
And I love that Killmonger was the one that got Claw. I feel like that was more appropriate than having Black Panther do it, because Killmonger represents the oppressed
And
person.
Yeah, and then he uses it from the thematic standpoint, definitely, and then also from the narrative standpoint, the fact that he gets him and Black Panther didn't, was like, that's what has that one tribe led by guy
Get
from
Out.
Get Out.
Daniel.
I cannot pronounce his last name.
I think it's almost
It's
Kaluuya.
Yeah,
Daniel
Kaluuya.
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 He strikes me like, there's a lot of great actors in this and stuff, but he strikes me as the person to really like. We should all be keeping our eye on him. Like I feel like in like 10 years we'll be watching this movie and be like, oh, look at that small part he had. Like they didn't know what they had. Like he's gonna. I feel like he's gonna blow up.
Yeah, from a narrative standpoint, it was like that's what gets him to have his tribe.
Because that's all he
assist the
really
coup.
wanted. It's just he wanted, because he lost his parents.
Yeah, he wanted to see justice for this.
Yeah,
guy
it was so, everything was tied together so well.
It
And
was-
then, oh my God, the women. Oh my
shit.
God. They're just everything. They're everything. And I don't even know what to say. Like, I want to be all of them. That's,
His sister was
his
my
sister
favorite.
is
The
Suri.
She was delightful.
She's so cute and
Yeah.
just such a kid.
Runs over the guy in the car. What was that? No, it's fine. You're doing fine. Don't worry about it. It's not
I was
anything.
like, and it's good because you don't want like a kid knowing she just ran over a dude. I was like, what? No, you're still a kid. No, you need to know what you just did. And it just, I appreciate also her knowing memes, because this makes me, through Suri, it makes me so much more curious about Wakandan pop culture. Like, what are the cities like? Like, I want to know, because if she's aware of Coachella, so she's clearly listening to the music.
She was aware of Coachella, but this was a weird beat. But she's apparently not aware of sneakers.
That was a joke.
Is it a joke?
Yeah, she started being sarcastic.
I assumed it was,
Yeah, she was clearly being sarcastic of like, I invented sneakers. Like,
the way she delivered it, I couldn't tell if it was because it was so, and I guess it was so animated. I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be genuine earnestness, because she keeps going like, you see, because you sneak.
Yeah, no, she was just being a teenager making a silly joke.
That sandal gag.
The water.
The real question is, what are those?
What are those? I was like, oh,
sandals.
So, oh man, yeah. I want to know like what her school is like. I want to know.
You don't get to see much. There's like 2 scenes where they're walking through the streets of Wakanda.
They did it.
Yeah.
Much.
I thought it was a big challenge. Wakanda was going to be a big challenge because they're introducing an entire society in one movie, and I think they did a good job.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was,
because they did enough to, like, they had them walking through the streets. They showed the people.
Yeah.
They showed enough that it felt like there was a bigger universe that I wanted to
I
know
looked up
about. The technology was awesome. Like, everything.
I had to look up a map of Wakanda kind of afterward. I was like, okay, like I need like a kind of a gist of where are all these tribes, and there's like 6 big cities, including the mountain one, and it's because the movie made Wakanda kind of feel like a big city and not a country, And then when you
true,
see
yeah.
that map, you're like, oh no, this is a nation. This is because Wakanda in the movie felt like a New York.
Yeah, it did feel just like a city.
Which is where, I mean, he lives in like the main city, but it's a country. It's like as big as a couple states.
Yeah, that's true, because it felt jarring when it cuts to them walking into the mountains. It's like freaking Lord of the Rings all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't... Just because everything we had seen of Wakanda before that point was all just in that city, and then, like, in his rhino farm that's, like, right next to it, so it seemed pretty contained, and then all of a sudden they're in these, snow-capped mountains. I was like, wow, the distance didn't connect in my mind.
And apparently, like, the way they travel, I mean, they obviously have the means to travel really fast. So it wasn't even
invisible spaceships.
Yeah, they have invisible spaceships. They have so getting to the location, but they didn't. I guess a critique is they didn't give the sense of scale of Wakanda very well.
That was what I was trying to articulate, because they had to go on foot, because that's after Killmonger comes in and takes everything. So
yeah, but I mean, they know where she's a spy,
right,
so she knows where all the other
just,
invisible bikes
That's
are.
That's true. But yeah, I just didn't get a sense of it felt very Game of Thrones and how it dealt with distance.
Yeah,
it was like they're all of a sudden in the Alps. Okay.
Well, it couldn't have been that far.
No, I know.
He washed up too, like down the street.
Well, there's a shit ton of rivers. They're all like connected by rivers.
I figured it's a country, but it's like a smallish country. I assumed.
Yeah, well, you see it in the very beginning. It's a smallish as far as countries in Africa.
I want to say it's probably like as big as it's like as big as a Kenya.
Yeah. I'm not good at
that. Sounds accurate.
Okay, it's as big as Arkansas.
They show you in the very
Arkansas,
beginning. They show you like a little how it is when they zoom out of the map of the world from Africa. So it was on the small side.
But I gotta say, overall, making that world, there was a moment. It was weird. I think it was when they were fighting at the waterfall, and when they like drained the water. It was that realization that it felt very Star Warsy in the sense that I was like, man, I could watch like 10 movies taking place.
Yeah.
Like, they had painted a detailed enough picture that it was just like, well, shit, this could just be the Marvel universe. Like, I like all the other movies, but it was like, there's enough here to really... It was
so well done, in my opinion, at being its own small, very focused story, very personal story, that Stan Lee's cameo felt off to me.
Yeah, agreed.
Like when he showed up, I was like, "What the fuck?" Oh, right. I
was like, "Oh yeah, I guess this is the only place they would add you."
Right? Like how is he going to show up in Wakanda?
I was like, "You're not showing up in Wakanda." Martin Freeman barely got in.
Oh, I loved all that. As soon as when she calls him fucking colonist.
Yeah.
Like, don't touch anything. I was like, oh, now we have to fix another white boy. I was just like, oh, there's the Bucky reference. That's cool.
Yeah.
And even then, the scene at the end, while also waiting and talking to the woman next to me, I was like, you know what I want? I want a scene with Shuri hanging out with the new Peter Parker, because they're the same age.
Oh shit!
And I want her. Like, all I was like, I just want her to look at his suit and just be like, what is this? What are you wearing? Like,
what is this trash?
Like, this is garbage. We could make this so much better. I wanted that moment, and in the end, I still got like a bonus scene with her in it. So I was like, you gave me half of what I wanted.
In the MCU storyline, I think it's Bucky and Cap are there right now. I think, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that how we left
Cap, because Cap doesn't stay.
Oh, that's true. He goes back and busts everybody out of the raft.
I really hope it's not just Black Panther and Infinity Wars. Like that's the thing that like now makes me like bummed out about Infinity Wars. I want more of this universe in Infinity Wars.
Oh, okay.
And like these characters and like.
Well, they
like I feel like it's that where like when they ended it with he'll be back in Infinity Wars. I had that feeling of like I want to see him like more of this world, like this universe.
Well, he's gonna get 2 more movies.
Oh yeah,
like he's. I'm pretty sure, especially after the box office numbers, they've already broken records for a 1 day.
I guess what I mean is like you said. I want to see these characters, not just Black Panther, interact with that universe too.
Yeah, I
want to see. They can't possibly afford.
I want to know about Wakandan's culture. I want to know what their music is like. I want to know what Wakandan Hollywood is like, because
they must make movies.
They have to make their own movies. They can't just be absorbing what's out in Western culture as their movie taste. Yeah. Like they would think that would be they'd be like, why why do they always treat the black people weird? Why
Yeah.
why are they treating their women like this? Like they would, I can't imagine that they would enjoy them in the context of
Right,
like
because
outside of like critiquing it, like, oh, okay, we know how the outside world is, so within the like
yeah, they would have centuries of books, music,
Yeah.
stuff that's because they've been insular the entire time.
yeah. I mean, they seem like they
they've
do
been-
go out,
they,
but
they get culture in, but none comes out.
Right.
So, yeah, that would be.
so they
interesting to see
might
what all
look
that
at a
looks
movie
like.
and just be like, oh, I like this and this part. How about we fix this and like make it so that it's, you know, like I would love to see, because there's in I think I want to say it's Nigeria that has its own like film industry, like
Oh, yeah.
insular
Yeah.
thing. So like I'm imagining it not like exactly like that, but within the range of that world where it's like, oh, we have our own stuff.
Yeah, I think to an extent there's a lot of countries that have that we like that don't occur to us right away. Like movies have only now started being like international things. So for a while,
Just because
it was-
distribution is more.
Yeah.
feasible now.
Like their internet must be insane.
Yeah, it's fucking runs on liquid or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like oh man, like I want that. I just want more. I want to know what the training is like to become one of the guards. I want to know, like, how do you train a rhino? Like, what is that?
Yeah,
That was.
It was weird, but I was just like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Why else would you have? That's why it's one of those other things that paid off. Like,
Oh,
we
yeah,
saw
that
some
was-
rhinos,
Yeah.
and then they showed up and I was like, oh, there's some rhinos.
they also like you could tell they were really like bobbing and weaving there with the rhinos. Were like, we can't kill the rhinos. Like during that final battle, like they're on the wrong side, the rhinos, but we're gonna like gently beat one up and put it under some
Pin it underneath some.
Yeah,
wreckage.
like I like how they handled the rhinos.
Yeah, it's like we can't kill this endangered species.
Yeah.
Same thing, I think, because of course I started looking up characters. They don't call him this in the movie, which I was like, oh, that's good. Essentially, Manape.
Manape, yeah.
I was like,
Smart.
Watching
Watching the film,
don't-
yeah. Watching the movie, I was like, he's a bad guy in the comics,
He's a very bad guy in the comics.
but he's cool in the movie.
But they kind of still kept him the same. They were a tribe in Wakanda that does not fuck with the tech stuff. They were like, nah, that's not us. We like no. And so having him try to come in and be like, we're going to bring it back to even our traditions. Like, so even that in itself is just like, it's not like traditional, like what we would imagine would be. It's like, no, like our traditions, like our history. And I'm like, well, what's your history? Give me more.
Yeah.
What do you guys do? You're vegetarian? Okay.
They live
What's
in
up?
mountains and wear gorilla skins. They're pretty. When they show, like, I was expecting them to be more antagonists than they were in the film.
Yeah.
When they first show up, I was like, oh, this is. I don't know. I'm not very familiar with Black Panther, but I do know like Manape and the tribe of the gorilla tribe, basically. So it's like, oh, these guys are fucking scary in the comics.
Yeah,
and when they show up and it's pretty fucking scary in that first scene. And then when they go to his house, his throne room is amazing.
Yes.
And then he's like funny and then helps them. I'm like, oh, this is a turn I didn't expect.
At no point
Like-
in that beginning sequence did I think that guy was going to be cracking jokes later. And,
But it
was
pays
great.
off because
Yeah.
he's like choking him out. He's like, no, your people need you. Give up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a good setup for the I owe you. You
And
know,
then,
now we're
Now
even.
we're done. Now we're even.
Now we're
Yeah.
done. He's like, nah, I'm not helping you. And then I'm pretty sure he was from whatever spies he has. Was just like, yo, they're not doing so hot. We should probably like this guy's for real. He's probably gonna come after us afterward. We should probably
Yeah.
step in. It's like, all right, let's
Did you
do this.
see all the beads he has in his chest?
Oh man, oh he has so many beads.
lot of
That
beads.
even that reveal,
That can't be
though, like, I
comfortable.
knew from like I saw like a picture of like of Michael B with his whole thing from before, and I was like, oh, what's that about?
It was a pretty good
And-
like because he shows you the arm. I'm like, oh, okay, I was not expecting
Yeah.
to be all covering
When he
his
shows the
entire
arm, you're like, that's a lot. And then
shows it
like, oh,
coating
shit.
his
Yeah,
torso.
and you're like, oh my
I
god,
was
and
like,
just
oh man.
look, he's like, look, this is what they do, and it's like this little baby scar, and you're like, okay, and he's like, nah, I can deal with that. And you're like,
Yeah, that's
whoa, you did that yourself? Who did that? Were you in the mirror? Like, I want to like, when did you decide to start doing it? After the first one? After like 10?
I think enough for it to make a cool pattern.
Yeah, because you don't want to start off
Right.
with like one, and, then you're
then-
like, tick.
Yeah, and then like not commit to killing
Yeah,
people
you
anymore.
got to certainly after a certain point. And
Is
do
it-
you start on the arm? Probably. You don't start in the chest.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe he.
Or maybe you started here.
Here's the thing. What if he was like, I'm just gonna do a cool like pattern on my chest, and then he started killing more people than he expected.
And
he's
messed
like,
up the picture.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like a cool eagle or something.
Yeah.
Maybe it was when he probably started forgetting how many kills. Like he was like, "Oh, I've hit 25. I'm starting to forget their names. Let me just start marking it."
I legit, hype aside and how important the film is aside, I legit don't have hardly any complaints about the film. One of the only ones I can think of is that Killmonger is a stupid name. It felt weird to have them keep calling him Killmonger.
I assume that's the comic book.
Yeah,
probably. But
it's his comic. It's a comic book bad guy name. I liked how they had Martin Freeman say "Oh, he's one of ours. He's done this much," to the point we started calling him Killmonger. I was just like, that's how you.
That's a good way around it. Or one of the things I can't, even though Iron Man 2 is pretty stupid, but the first Iron Man is great, and the Iron Man 3 is pretty great. They get around it in Iron Man just by never calling the bad guy their bad guy name.
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges in the first movie, his character is called Ironmonger in the comics, but they never say that. They just call him his name.
Mind you, we're calling him Killmonger. I think the only time you hear him references Killmonger is when Martin Freeman's character says it, so they just kind of...
They refer to him after it.
Oh.
T'Challa calls him Killmonger.
Oh, that's right.
Always been my problem with superhero movies is that they're silly.
Yeah, it's it's a fantasy.
You can
movie.
tell a not silly story in the This movie got around it, but I always feel like when I watch a really good superhero movie, it's fighting the fact that it's a superhero movie. It has to figure out how to not be silly. And this movie did it really well because it's that thing of there has to be a bad guy and a good guy, and they have to fight, and they handled it really well in this. It was that idea of that was what I was talking about with the villain at first, where they did a really good job at making you sympathize with him and see things, having him do that ceremony and stuff. And so it's this wasn't a cookie cutter bad guy; it was ambiguous.
And that's...
He technically played by the rules in
He
was in their culture.
He beat him fairly. Yeah.
He respected the culture to go by the rules. Then he just kind of ran over it.
That's what bugged me about the scene where he burns all the shit, and I wanted to see him take over and then be a good boss to make it even more he didn't need to be such a comic book villain.
But he had to.
But he did, exactly.
Because that's what happens when you become that corrupted, and you he said it. You've turned into
and that's
the thing that. You can't turn into your oppressor, and the fact that Black Panther's this representation of a culture that was never conquered, which is that in itself is it's one of those things where you don't realize what a mind-blowing concept that is until it's presented to you hey, did you ever consider? And you're holy shit, because even just all media that I've seen addressing Black people, Black culture, at least in mainstream pop culture in the U.S. I'm sure this does exist elsewhere, but just in my lifetime, I've never experienced a story that just presented that idea of here's a culture of Black people never conquered, never had any type of
never got
outsiders coming in and destroying it and taking a part of their thing, and even if they tried, they were able to push back and still be themselves that. And I was just whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That is huge. you saying it hadn't occurred to me.
Yeah, no, of course
you
not.
Saying because that is huge.
It was a pretty good movie.
Yeah. But that's also great too. That you could have this extra layer that's just there, and then everybody can go in and appreciate it and have empathy with these characters. Honestly, one of the main reasons when I wanted to talk to you guys about it, because when I was leaving it, I was just okay, I don't know if this is the feeling that I guess white people in general get when they're watching superhero movies, things like that they get represented, this feeling of connection. Because I watch all these movies all the time, and I could appreciate it. I've cried. I enjoy the characters. I love these characters. Mm-hmm. They're fun, but I've never felt this is the first time I really felt this weird like innate, like, oh, this is for me, and not in a pandering way. It was just like this natural, like, here, this is yours.
Yeah, I think
It had.
I will speak for all white people.
Okay.
I think we as in white people get represented so often in movies that we just either we take it for granted or we just don't notice it. I mean,
I feel like I've taken it for granted to the extent that I thought I understood why this movie was significant. Like when it was you in the theater crying, and it was just like that more superficial thing of I was just thinking like, yeah, it's really cool to see a movie where black people are represented and it's mainstream and it's huge. And then you explaining this stuff is just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like there's way more to that. But you're right, it still is a movie that everybody can enjoy at the same time. Like, as a person thinking about Marvel movies, just from the Marvel perspective, I really appreciate this movie for
It's
the
just,
things it would do.
yeah.
But
it just I think it's like, whenever I see any movie, like, I can't, at least especially as an adult. As a kid, I never really, like, I think I was absorbing it subconsciously, but as an adult, once people start pointing out, they're like, oh, like, hey, like, we're not represented and stuff. And so once it clicks and you're like, oh, okay. So you start looking for it anywhere. I look for it in the background of things. Like we've watched movies together where I'm like, oh, sweet, there's a black person in the crowd.
Oh, yeah, I
like,
remember
I'm
that.
just, like, eyeballing, like, for anything just because I'm like, where am I? I want, like, because I'm having fun watching it and I want to feel like a part of it too. And I want to feel like if I was in that movie, I could participate and I could be welcome. But that's really hard to do when you're watching a movie and you don't see anybody that looks like you. And you're just like, I don't know. So this movie where it's just like, well, everybody here looks like my cousins.
Yeah.
They look like my aunts. Everyone's dark. There was no half be like I'm half, so and I'm lighter, and I didn't see. And normally, even when you do get represented, I could find myself easier than someone that looks like my mom, who's much darker. So even though when I was looking at it, I wasn't necessarily seeing anybody who was like half. I was like just the fact I was like, all these women look like my family members. All the and different, not stereotypical. Like there were people who were soft, people who were hard. There were people who like everyone had feelings and emotions. Like the fact that the warrior general, like, yeah, she's like stoic and like she's like a badass who's like, I'm a fucking warrior, but she still had warmth. Like when she was talking to her friends and her family, and just like, it's like, oh, she's not hard all the time. She's just hard when she's at work.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like,
because
it's just I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but it's just one of those things where I don't get, like, I need to see this movie at least several more times to like kind of just, I want to watch the edges now. Like I want to see the stuff that I wasn't paying attention to, and really kind of like, okay, like look at the way they did the technology. That font that they used, I'm a graphic designer, by the way, so that font that they used every time they brought up a new location, I'm like, that's beautiful. I need that font. What is that? Where can I, like, I just want to absorb everything about it.
that cool like grade and 3D computer and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
For
pretty
the
sweet.
graph.
Yeah. I want to. Okay, I can give one thing that I think might be critiqued in like the Black community in itself, which is, and it's one line, and it's like it's minor in the movie, but it's a bigger cultural thing in the Black community. When Okoye is like, when they were like doing the stakeout and she was wearing the wig and she was upset about wearing the wig, fine, but when she makes a comment saying she didn't say unnatural, she said disgraceful, and I was like, ooh, that's gonna sting with some people, because within the Black community there's always this big debate over like natural hair versus chemically straightening your hair and all this stuff, because of the system you're in, which is her point, which is in the character, makes sense. Character makes 100% sense because of who she is, where she's from, what's going on, because in their culture it's just, that's the hair that grows out of your head. Why would you, there's no need to change it, you know? But here it's like, well, you don't get treated well if your hair doesn't necessarily look a certain way. And mind you, there's movements and stuff, but in the culture that's a huge debate over how black you are versus depending on how you do your hair. Like, it's weird, it's dumb, and it's weird, but it makes sense because culture and oppression and all this bigger stuff. So I wondered when she said that line, I was just like, ooh, oh, I wonder.
I noted that. I remembered that line, and I think it's just because of having this conversation with you before. I think. Yeah.
I think I tried. Did I show you guys Good Hair?
Good Hair.
Still
Yeah.
haven't watched it.
It's here. I know it's in your house. You need to watch that.
But yeah, and just knowing that, like, wigs are a thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, so I remember like noting that line.
But it does make sense with that character.
Yeah, it makes.
It makes sense with that
It's a good
character.
line for that character.
And I like that they had oh my god, I'm so bad with the names. Nakia. What?
Lupita Nyong'o.
Yes,
Just say the actress
Lupita.
name.
When she's like, oh, but you look good. Like, there still is an element of like her just being like, it's fine. You look great, and she's just like, meh.
She's like, whatever.
I don't want to wear this. Which, of course, like, if you're used to fighting without anything on your head, like, I could imagine wearing a wig is like, this is uncomfortable.
Strange, or
yeah. But she used it. She threw that wig.
She did.
She threw it right in that guy's face. All of it.
Oh my god, the part where she throws the action. I was gonna say one of my critiques. This is more with action in general. The action was a little harder to follow, but it's because it's not. It's actors doing fighting, and so they have to cut around it.
Yeah,
but he does that oneer shot when it's not a real oneer.
It's not a real oneer,
fighting
but
in the club.
In the club.
And that reminded me because he does a oneer, a fight scene in Creed that was very practically done. I forgot the director's name.
Ryan Coogler.
Thank you. And he loves practical effects, so I'm really, really excited about the practical effects in this. Sorry, I'm rambling a little because I wanted to get to the her throwing the fucking spear through the car.
Yes.
That was the best goddamn moment I've seen.
Like the action being difficult to follow is kind of a complaint across Marvel movies.
Yes. And action movies, modern ones.
There were some pretty decent set pieces in this, though. The spear through the car was great.
I think there's a lot of practical effects in this that we're going to find out about too. But
there was genuine suspense in some of the fights, particularly when it's Michael B. Jordan fighting Okoye and all of her people, because like, I don't know if that character's going to get killed. Yeah. Like, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
I was worried for her.
Yeah. I was like,
and then he just kills one of the other soldiers.
I think I looked it up. I think her name was Ayo. I think like there was like the list of the cast. I'm like, oh, you only named one other person. I was like, oh, that must be her.
That must be the one who got the throat.
They look similar.
And then and then when he like breaks his sister's gauntlets and shit, I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Is she gonna be all right? Like.
Well, she's that one of all the characters. Pretty sure she was gonna be fine because I was like, I know she at some point in the comics also becomes Black Panther.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm like, oh, sweet. So I'm hoping MCU wise later on when they start retiring the older folks, that they're like, oh, here, like now we have a new fresh Black Panther. It's the little sister. It follows the comics. It's par for the course. I don't know how they're gonna get plants back, although. I don't know.
They'll figure it out.
I mean, one of the Infinity Stones is supposed to be in Wakanda.
I assume it's whatever is allowing
the plants to grow.
Yeah.
So probably underneath that, the plants are probably going to come back.
Because it kind of seems like that could be time or soul. I'm not sure.
Oh.
Because it restores.
It's probably
energy,
soul.
but then also it allows them to. Yeah, soul's the life one, and then it. But because they already did.
Because they brought him back to life too. With the plant, Well, not back to life, but like he wasn't all dead.
He was mostly dead.
Oh, what a good thing! He's just like, yeah, you can move him, but he's gonna die. And like, I was like, oh, this is great. And then burying him in the ice and still with the all of it.
It's a very good movie.
It's so good. The clothes, everybody like.
Oh god, the set design, the costume design.
Yeah, it's real cool.
Yeah.
They just radiated. They radiated class and strength. And beauty and just that last shot when he's like addressing the UN and they like kind of have the slow walk and he's there and it's like his mom, his sister, his queen. Essentially, they're gonna probably like I'm assuming, you know, like it's just the core team and it's just having this man with these women like with him, not like behind because they left him behind several times. They're like he's gonna catch up.
Yeah, like, leave him there. Oh, he's fine.
He's fine. We're not babying this man. Yeah. Like he'll figure it out. And the fact that he treats them as equal, like they're not beneath him.
Yeah,
they are with him. They are on the same level, and the four of them walking in, and just that little slow. I was just like, I need this.
Yeah.
I need
the female characters. This is not a criticism, but I gotta say, Black Panther was probably the character I was the least interested in while watching the movie, because there were so many, like you said, they treated them all as equals. So it was like,
well, yeah, it also because it comes from the trouble of being a superhero movies. You know he's going to be fine.
Yeah, you're right.
You're kind of paying more attention to the stakes of the other characters, and which is the mark of a good story, or a movie that's done well. So I actually cared about all of the secondary characters, and they were all very even when they're
so much to do.
Like one of the most interesting parts was after Black Panther supposedly dead. I was like, he's clearly coming back. How everybody else reacted, and how they were immediately like, okay, like you two got to go, you go to here, and like they were just immediately like, oh, he's gone. Yeah. We have shit to do. Let's go. And they just went to work to protect their people. Like, it was just like they mourned, they were sad, but it never broke them, which is huge. Like, there was no scene of just like, what am I gonna do without him? And blah. Like, it was just like, I'm sad, but this is what we have to do. And that's also reflective of Black culture in general, because the amount of times where shit just happens and there's nothing you can do, and you just have to kind of go, well, right. This is unfortunate. We got to push forward. We got to keep going, especially with Black women in the U.S. Just like we're the workhorses of not only with just society within the Black community. We don't get, because of sexism is still a big thing. Sure. Like that's why it was also really refreshing to be like, all these, like, everyone's treating these women with respect. Yeah. Like, it's not like a thing of like, oh, you're lucky I'm treating you with. It's not even that. It was just like, no, we just do. Like, it wasn't a question. It wasn't a thought. It wasn't like I'm doing you a favor. It was just is. And that was really refreshing in itself, even in Black movies. Because that also, like, every movie always, like, not every movie, but a good chunk of movies always have issues with sexism, and I couldn't even, like, I don't think I had that in this. I was just like, oh, like, not like
only in the points where it was intentional. Like when Michael B. Jordan undermines Okoye in front of him.
Yeah, and when he kills his girl, where you're like, but he's clearly
his character,
he's the bad guy. Yeah. This isn't something to emulate.
Yeah,
it works in the universe too, because the position of Black Panther is something passed down. Like, he's not unique, I guess, to their culture. Like, and so it makes sense that like when they think he's dead, like, they're just like, okay, let's keep
right. There's
moving.
Been a bunch before him.
It's like they're he's not the person running the show. Like, it's a communal thing. It's a group of people. So yeah, man.
Yeah. Oh man, what a good movie. It's just.
I wanted to go back real quick and touch upon, because this is a Marvel thing. It's also what you were saying, because you were talking about how, like, the first question you ask is like, why weren't they helping the rest of the world and stuff like that, and they address it immediately. That's also, I think, a big Marvel thing, because like with Captain America, one of my first questions was always like, what about like Vietnam and the Holocaust, and like where was S.H.I.E.L.D. for this shit? What was going on? And it's such a Marvel thing to sort of gloss over it and then think about it later. I love that this movie was like, here's a new universe. Now I know what you're all thinking, and we're going to immediately address it.
Like, this is what it is.
Yeah, it was
because
great.
That happens even. I mean, this is again a U.S. Black culture thing too, where when somebody in the Black community becomes super successful and succeeds, and if they don't do something for the community in return, there's always this level of like sellout. There becomes a level of distrust, even though you know why, because everyone knows why. You're like, well, yeah, like there's a fear of being associated where you came from, because you don't want to be mistreated now that you have maybe a little bit more power because you have money. Mind you, that doesn't change the way you look, no matter what you do with all the money. But there's an element of you want to separate yourself from the thing when you felt oppressed. So having that's why that was the first question, where it's like, because it's ingrained, where it's like, if you see someone super successful but they're not helping your people because everyone else is like, we need the support. Like, this is it, like, as a culture we have to support each other because that's how we survive. And so as you see a culture where like, you guys are thriving, why didn't you why didn't you help? Like, it's a thing. Like, that's why, like, I mean, even, like, you have Beyonce and Jay-Z, like, you know, they donate so much to charity. They put so much time, because, like, weirdly in our culture, it's like they're kind of like our king and queen pop culture wise in its own thing. Like, that's why they address issues. That's how, like, we kind of treat them as these like our heroes, because they do so much for the community, and they support and they address it in their music. They make sure they keep it as a part of them, you know? Like,
and then in the end of the film, he literally goes back to where his uncle was killed, and where, you know, Killmonger found his dead uncle.
Yeah, and it was just like, okay, we're gonna...
This building, that building, these are all community outreach centers, you know, we're gonna...
That also goes back to the moral of him versus the bad guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
How do you... He goes to the building, and it's like, oh, we're gonna tear it down. And he's like, no, we're gonna improve it. We're gonna make it good, you know, like...
And it's and even that, and the fact that he in the beginning struggled with that decision and that notion, because it's hard, it's trouble, it's not an easy thing to go, now that I have made it, god damn it, I can't even enjoy this because I still have to help people. Like, you want to have that selfish aspect of yourself where you're just like, no, I made it, fuck you, I'm just gonna be here and live my life.
Yeah.
But you have this responsibility to help people, and it's not easy. It's not an easy task.
No, because no one feels powerful when they're powerful. No one ever feels like... Everybody thinks they're the underdog, I think.
Yeah.
Is a general thing. And no one realizes when they're in a position to start giving. Like, you know, because everybody still feels like they're just trying to hold it together. Like, no matter where you are in life.
Yeah, that's why when he was like, I'm king now, he's like, I'm not ready to be king. And they're like, you were groomed from the get-go. Like, you can do this. And he's like, well, I don't want to fuck it up. And it's like, and so that's why, like, hey, like, maybe we should help you. He's like, nah. And even the line of like, him asking his friend, like, do you think we should, like, let refugees in? And they're like, if you bring in refugees, you're going to bring in their problems. That's all. And that's true in a sense, where it's just like, but what's the right thing to do? Yeah. You have to help people. Yeah. Like, that's humanity. That's how you become stronger. Like, but it's not easy.
I liked when they did that, because that was before realizing that was going to be the point of the film. So that was the, I guess, low point where I was like, oh man, are they just gonna move on from that? Like, is it just gonna be?
Yeah, because it didn't feel good. They're like, I don't like. I'm like, ooh, I don't like that.
I was so scared they were then gonna be like, and now a villain has a big blue laser, and we're gonna deal with this.
Yeah, I was glad that didn't happen.
And yeah, they were like, it was reminding me of like places like Norway that are, or most Scandinavian countries. I think they don't. They have like no immigration, and
it's
they
very,
just keep
very
to
hard
themselves.
to become a citizen.
Yeah, and they're very suspicious. What are they doing there? What are they up to? What is Norway up to right now? Do we know?
I don't know.
No, we don't.
I think they're just.
That's why they call it No Way.
Yeah,
they're just doing their thing.
They're just doing
Norway's not the chocolate, right? That's Swiss, or is it?
I think it's Switzerland.
Yeah.
And the Black Forest.
What's in Norway? Fish.
Exactly.
Fish.
What's in Norway?
What do they got there? They have vibranium.
They got some fish.
I was gonna tell my the whitest thought I had in the theater. So we get about halfway through the movie, and then this couple sitting behind Marina and I start talking continuously.
Oh no!
And I can hear their glasses tinkling. So I'm like, all right, they're having some drinks. They're enjoying themselves. But then it keeps going, and it becomes distracting after a while, because it goes on for 15 minutes. It's like, oh, man, am I really gonna have to? So I turn around and look at them, because I'm thinking about getting up to go tell the art list. I was like, these people won't stop talking at normal volume.
Yeah.
I turn around and it's a black couple, and I was like, all right, I can't be that white person that...
Yeah, no, I was like, oh, no. I was like, oh, no, you can't.
I can't do that.
That's also kind of like par for the course, like that. That's a stereotype. Yeah, black people talk in a movie. A little bit. That's a thing that happens. But this was also one of those movies where I'm like, I actually was really surprised in my theater there wasn't more like outburst, but I honestly also think everybody was just so absorbed. There were little moments like the first scene when they show Oakland, like there was a couple people,
1992.
yeah, and I was just and there was an audible, all right, like
I loved
because
that.
I was just like, where's this? Okay, where are we going?
I love that they were just like, okay, the story of Black Panther. Fade in, fucking Oakland,
California.
in the 90s.
In 1992.
But I think that was the only outside of like cheers and like a couple like damn like when during fight scenes that came out. But
I would also argue that white people also talk a lot during movies and do not.
Well, the big problem is drunk people.
It's drunk people.
I'm just thinking of the people I know who talk the most during movies throughout the years of my experiences. Like, it doesn't. I'm not going to go into personal stories.
For me, it's always been teenagers.
Teenagers are the worst.
Bored teenagers watching a movie when they clearly just wanted to be out, and it was like, this is our option, and they're not making out, so they're just fucking around chatting and talking in a movie.
I think if people are talking in reaction to the movie,
to me that's fun.
Yeah, if
I
someone's
don't
talking about
do
their
it,
day
but it's
during
fun.
a movie or something, like just chatting.
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, guys, just go leave the movie theater if you want to go have a conversation. But if it's people just verbally enjoying a movie.
Yeah, no, it was, you know, it's whatever. Yeah. I've been pretty good at tuning it out. Usually, but yeah, it's turned around.
Yeah. That was a good move. Good call. Good call. Good call.
Can't do that.
I was gonna say, I think there was a podcast I listened to called The Read, which you should listen to it if you're interested in Black pop culture news every week. They were talking about how they're like, we're half joking, but not really. They're like, Black people have priority seating in this, right? Like that's the like if you're going and you're not Black and you're getting annoyed by a laugh or a talk or a comment, they're like, just remember, just this one. This is ours. We have priority seating for this one. Yeah. But they were half joking, but there was a little bit of like,
yeah, of course.
Don't fuck this up for people. This is real important.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. Although I think I probably
true.
I would have given a look back, but I could have done it. I'm like,
right. Yeah.
Well, it's true when again all the lead up to this is the news talking about Blade. And it's like, yep, that's the one other one.
Yeah, the one.
Fucking disingenuous bullshit like Ben Shapiro.
What's funny, no one remembered Hancock either, and you're like, oh yeah, that one.
Well, that's Will Smith.
Yeah.
Will Smith is doing great on Instagram, by the way, if you have not followed him.
I don't.
He's become like Instagram's dad, because he's just a cool uncle. He's nice, and he picks on his kids in a loving way. He's really good with the kids. It's really endearing. Yeah. I'm like, oh, well, good job, Will Smith. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for.
Because we forget that after some years of weirdness. Well, there's been some years of weird Scientology quoting weirdness where he's talking about
some bad movies.
He and his son discovering the equation that controls the universe. Like he's.
Yeah, he's had some moments where you're like, what?
And then some space cadet things.
But now he seems to have settled back into like your cool Black uncle, just vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this movie was so good. So good.
Yeah.
All right, should we wrap up?
Yeah, we probably should.
Do you have anything else you'd like to?
Just please go see it. I'm gonna go see it probably at least 2 more times, just because I need to. And if you guys really like this, because I'm also going to be doing this, you like this style of like future Africa, it's a whole subgenre that I found out like exists called Afrofuturism, and it's about stories that deal with Africa that look like this, where it's the future but in Africa and what those stories could be, and I'm going to dig into it because.
Cool, yeah,
I like that, and it seems like a cool vibe. So yeah.
Cool, yeah.
Do you have anything you'd like to plug? Where can we find you, sir?
Plugs. I am on YouTube as Starline Hodge. I am on Twitter as Starline X, and I'm on Instagram as Starline. Pronounced Starline, but for spelling purposes, Starline.
Like the bus.
Yeah.
The best that most. It's like only
It's
in
a
this.
very local thing. Yeah.